If you're
Yeah.
struggling right now trying to find your first deal, look at me. I had a sub 1,000 score on my SATs. I had a 2.79 GPA in high school. So it's not like I was that brilliant, but I never gave up, and I had a growth mindset, and I said, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And here we are 20 years later. I've got a company that did 256 wholesales and flips last year, and I work an hour a week in that business.
Are you looking to achieve massive success in your life without dealing with costly investment nightmares? If yes, then this is the podcast for you. Here, we provide engineers and busy professionals all the secrets and strategies to create multiple streams of income, build generational wealth, and live a meaningful life by design. Here's your host, Ted Patel.
All right. Welcome back, Decoding Cash Flow listeners. Today, I have a pleasure to introduce you Bran Chandler. Brad is a CEO and co-founder of Express Homebuyers. And he started Express Homebuyers in 2020. And since then, he has bought and sold more than 4,000 homes across the US. Recently, Brad has also started coaching to share his experience and knowledge with others. And he's also big on life transformation. So welcome, Brad. Welcome to Decoding Cash Flow.
Oh, thanks for having me. And by the way, I didn't start in 2020. That would have been really impressive. I started in 2003.
Yeah, maybe my bad. 2002. I was supposed to. Maybe the number went off. But yeah, 2002. It has been like about 20 years now.
Yep. Time has flown.
Yeah. So, Brad, let's get. Why don't you give a brief introduction to our listeners? What are you about? What's your company doing? And what's your focus right now?
Yeah. So in ninth grade, I read a book on how to buy real estate with no money down, and knew that I always wanted to do real estate investing. And we'll talk about in a little bit why that was I wanted to do real estate investing. But bought my first house in late 2002. I met an investor who bought my neighbor's house in late 2002, and I went and talked to him. He goes, yeah, I buy houses at 30% below market. I fix them up and I resell them. I was like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. So I'm going to do that. So I spent 8 long months I was working a full-time job. I'd come home, I put my son to sleep, and then I'd work from like 8 to 11 every single night. And each month that went by, Ted, I didn't get a deal. And I kept showing up to these meetings and everyone was getting a deal. And I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. And so in July of 2003, I bought my first house. In July and August, I bought 6 houses. And in October, I went to my boss and I go, I quit. I came home. I told my wife at the time I just quit. She was like, are you crazy? Like, we've got a newborn kid and I've got 2 kids. What are you doing? I was like, it'll be fine. And here we are 4,000 houses later. And it's all been fine.
Awesome. What a journey. And it's all about, persistency, right? You didn't quit. You waited for 8 long months, didn't find a deal, but kept going. And eventually things clicked out for you. So that's one of the main lessons, for the listeners. You just keep going, if whatever you have in mind, whatever goal you have in mind, don't leave it in the middle.
No, I mean, if you're struggling right now trying to find your first deal, look at me. I had a sub 1,000 score on my SATs. I had a 2.79 GPA in high school. So it's not like I was that brilliant, but I never gave up, and I had a growth mindset, and I said, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And here we are 20 years later. I've got a company that did 256 wholesales and flips last year, and I work an hour a week in that business. So it's provided me the opportunity to do my real life's purpose, and that's to help people end their suffering, whatever their suffering is, OCD or depression or anxiety or working too much. So I've just been really blessed to have created a business. So if you're struggling, you can do the same thing. You just have to believe in yourself and keep going and going and going.
Absolutely. So Brad, talking about, your company, Express Homebuyers, the name implies, right? Express, fast, quick buy, quick sell. So does it mean like you do mostly wholesale deals or fix and flips, a single family, multifamily? Just if you can give a little bit more overview of what you do.
All single family, and up until from 2003 to 2017, I had this silly premonition that wholesaling was for the less sophisticated person who couldn't raise the capital, and they were okay making a little bit of money. In 2017, I was like, you know what? it seems like we're making more money wholesaling than actually doing the rehabs, because rehabbing is the hardest part of this business, bar none. Rehabbing one house is hard enough. Rehabbing 5 houses isn't 5 at one time, isn't 5 times as hard. It's like 25 times as hard. So in 2017, we literally, I don't think that year we bought one house. We did 200 deals, 170, a lot of deals. And we wholesaled everything. And it was probably up until that time our most profitable year. So now we just focus on single families. We've done some condo conversions in the past. We haven't done them in a long time because the prices have gone so high. But we focus on just single family, and we probably do 60 to 70% wholesale, and the rest we either buy them, fix them up a little bit, or buy them and just take them down and resell them.
All right, sounds good. Any specific area all over the country? Yeah, is there any major focus on a specific metro area or anything as such?
While we look at all metro areas because of our strong website, the 3 primary areas where we've bought most of our houses is in DC Metro and Baltimore Metro. And then last year we expanded into Los Angeles.
Anything in New Jersey?
We've done some deals in New Jersey, not a whole lot.
No, not a whole lot. Okay. No, talking about wholesale, right? As you said, for those who don't know what wholesaling is in a simple terms, if I have to explain, is putting a house under contract and selling that contract at a certain spread. You know, it varies depending on the house, how much work it needs. You sell the contract to the buyer, and you just make the money in the middle, 10, 20, 50 grand, whatever, based on the deal. Where you don't have to put anything up. There is no upfront cost. If you're wholesaling, it's just you need to have a process to get the buyer who are in a situation where they need to sell immediately, or like within a certain time frame. They don't have time to put it onto MLS, wait for 2 months for the buyer to get their loan approved and by the house. So wholesaling is like a quick sell for instant money. And I'm sure, Brad, you do all cash.
Right? We do. Yep. So yeah, it's we get the house under contract for $100,000. Let's say that it needs $50,000 worth of work and would sell for $250,000. So I don't want to do the work. So I go to you and I say, hey, will you buy this house for $130,000? And you're thinking 130 plus 50 equals 250. I can sell it, yeah, I'll do that. So you show up with $130,000. I owe the seller 100. So at closing, you bring in the $130,000. I give 100 to the seller, and I keep $30,000. It's a beautiful thing.
Yep. And the thing is, the people who are into the construction business or fix and flips, they don't have to go and search for the deal. If you have a good connection with a company like yours, you can just they'll be feeding your pipeline. You'll get the regular deals.
Yeah. I mean, people say to me all the time, well, why don't they just go right to the seller? And I go, well, it's not that easy. Number one, you've got to spend marketing dollars. We spend over 6 figures a month in marketing, right? Number two, who's going to answer the phones 24/7? Are you going to have a website? How are you going to follow up? What's your CRM going to look like? Like, it's not just, you just call up a seller and be like, hey, I want to buy your house. There's massive infrastructure behind that you've got to set up.
Yeah. And talking about that, right? Marketing, as you mentioned, let's understand some of your marketing process. Like what are your main focus, like direct mails or getting the foreclosure list, calling the homeowners, or putting the signboards? What are your main? Yeah.
Now we've done them all. When I started out, I was banging those "We Buy Houses" signs and telephone poles at 11 o'clock at night, wearing all black, trying to hide from people. We don't do that anymore. We've spent millions and millions of dollars on TV advertising over the years. We do pay-per-click advertising. We do Facebook ads. We got away from direct mail for a while, and we're back heavy into direct mail. I mean, the analytics around direct mail are getting, better and better and better. So we're working with some data analytics companies that provide us with lists of people who are more prone to sellers than the next seller. So we're doing all those things.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And which is the best ROI for, like?
Uh, PPC and TV are pretty close, and they go back and forth.
Okay.
PPC meaning Google AdWords.
Yep. Okay. Alrighty. So that was about the whole marketing process, right? And talking about your team structure. Once, if you can explain to our listeners, like, someone saw your ad, they pick up the phone, they call you. What are the next steps after that you take into consideration?
Yeah, so our phone rings through to our acquisition staff of about 5 people. If they don't answer it live, it rolls over to our virtual assistant staff. We have about 12 virtual assistants in the Philippines. And really, we're just trying to make sure the house isn't listed. And if the house isn't listed, we're trying to get an appointment with the home seller so that we can get into the house, because we believe that, our ability to close or sign up the house is a lot better if we're actually in their home. So that's it. And then on the phone, once we if an acquisition associate answers the phone, they're going to be running comps just like an appraiser would do. Comps mean comparable sales. They're looking at what would this house sell for fixed up. And then, we don't make any offers over the phone typically, unless it's out of state. So we'll go to the house and, make the offer at the house.
And with regards to the underwriting process, right? Any specific calculations that you have in mind? Like, okay, the house is, the market value is, let's say 100K, just a ballpark number, 100K, just to make it easy, right? So you buy it at a price 30%, including the renovation cost.
Roughly.
Discount, right?
Look, we've gone up to like 75, 78% before.
Okay.
It just depends on the area and the velocity and what's going on in that area and what the price of the house is. The higher the price house, the higher percentage we can buy, because the pure dollar spread will be there.
Absolutely. Yep. Right. And what about like, have you encountered any instance where you want to buy it as an assignment, the loan assignment, or subject to, I would say, existing loan? Any such?
Yeah, of the 4,000 houses we've done, we've probably bought 50 houses subject to. So yeah, we've done that for sure. And I think in this, we're not doing more of them, but people should be doing more of them if they're buying wholes, because the interest rates, there's so many 3% and 4% interest rates out there, and now the mortgage rates are like 6 or 7. So I know a lot more people are doing those now, and you just have to be careful. If you don't know what you're doing, I would not recommend it, because you have the responsibility to pay that homeowner's mortgage, and if you don't, they can sue you.
And the other thing to keep in mind is like if bank agrees to it, right? That's the mortgage loan clause.
So every loan has that clause in there that you can't sell the house without letting them know. But honestly, as long as it's being paid and paid on time, I've never in all my years ever heard any bank calling a note due when it was being paid on time.
Okay. And there is a special contract between home buyer and the seller, right? If the seller, if the buyer defaults, what are the consequences? Like the seller keeps to take the home back, like not to keep.
So it really isn't a special contract. It really just says that we're buying your house subject to the existing financing. That's it. That's why it's so scary. So many people don't paper it correctly, and then it's the homeowner thinks, well, okay, you can pay my mortgage, and then in 2 years they decide that they want to go get a house, and they try to get a house, and they're like, no, you don't approve because you've got this outstanding mortgage. And then there are ways around that. If the person has kept good records, they can go back and say someone else is paying this mortgage, but it just becomes hairy, and then it's cumbersome.
It's not worth it, right?
Look, it can be worth it if it's done right, but so many gurus make it sound so easy, and they've never had 100 houses, and then the market crashes, and then now the $100,000 house is worth $80,000, and now the tenant stops paying rent, and now they've got 100 of these things or 80 of these things to service, and they have no money. So a lot of people selling stuff want to make things sound so easy, and it's not that it's bad, and it's not that it's not a good tool. It's just like a scalpel can be used to save someone's life or kill someone. You just have to use it in the right way.
Absolutely. And if you can take a step back, right? We were talking about your team structure. So do you have your teams across the country, like or boots on the ground? That's what I went to say. Who can go visit the properties in different states, do the appraisal? How
So
does that work out?
we
Yeah.
out of our Springfield, Virginia office, we serve all of DC in Baltimore metro areas. So we'll get in the car and drive an hour or 2 hours if we have to.
Uh-huh.
In LA, we actually have boots on the ground there. We have a home buying specialist, and then all other areas we would be buying virtually.
Virtually. Wow. That, have you found any risk doing it
Oh yeah, I
virtually?
mean we've had some losers over the years, but we've also done well over the years on
Yeah.
properties.
Yeah, maybe out of 50 or 100, you might get a one dud, but it's worth it, right?
Yeah, or maybe 2 or 3 or 5,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. And in your process, right? As you said, most of it is wholesaling, so there's no need of, I would say, investors or hard money lenders. Are they involved in your business by any means?
Well, yeah, because I mean, we probably bought 100, 150 houses last year. So definitely, we use our own cash to buy. We use hard money lenders. We use friends and family money. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that sounds great. And is it any specific structure that you buy, like 501s, 506C, B, anything that you follow, or
No,
just
we just buy in a regular LLC. That's it.
just the regular? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Nice. So what is just, you have done so many deals, right? Let's go, if you can tell one of your best deal that you have done so far and one of the worst deal, and how did you overcome or
Wow. Yeah, I'll start with the worst deal ever. We bought a house in North Arlington in 2005, and we were going to subdivide the lot, knock down the house, and build 2 houses. And we hired this engineering consulting firm, and they told us we could go harder on the deposit. And then when they started to do their due diligence, they're like, oops, it's a corner lot. You can't subdivide it. And we ended up losing $934,000 on that one property. And it was at a point in time where our lenders didn't personally make us personally guarantee the loan. So it would have been very easy for us to walk away and be like, sorry guys. But we did the right thing like we always do. And they allowed us to pay it off in 2 years. We kind of short sailed it. Well, not really. We paid them all the principal. They gave us a little break on the interest. And so we paid it off in 13 months. And that one lender we've probably borrowed in excess of $200 million from that one lender. So another lesson for the listeners is just always do the right thing in life. Like it wasn't their fault, and it was our fault, and we should have done better. And so, yeah, that's the worst deal ever. What's the best deal ever? I think the best deal ever was it was like a 5-unit property that we wholesaled in Adams Morgan, which is a neighborhood in DC. And I think our wholesale fee was like $300,000.
Oh, that's a big margin.
Yeah.
That's big. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And with some of these deals that comes in, right? Have you ever encountered where the buyer backs out at the last moment, and now, because you're doing wholesaling, right? Buyer backs out at the last moment, and you already have signed the contract with the seller, so you are forced to buy the property and then wait for another buyer to buy it from you.
So most people have outs in their contracts, and way too many wholesalers in this country do that very same thing. Or we have competitors in our market that will actually retrade the people at the last second because, they got the moving truck outside their house and they're getting ready to move. And they're like, sorry, we couldn't find a buyer. They're going to lower the price. We don't do any of that shady stuff. So 9 times out of 10, we will close on the property. If we said we're going to close on it, we're going to close on it.
And who are your main sellers? Like what type of sellers are these? Like the people who go to the foreclosure, people getting divorced? What are the other different type of sellers that you encounter who wants to sell the property immediately?
Major repairs, hoarders, divorce, probate situations, and financial distress. That's pretty much it.
All right. Because the thing is, I started buying foreclosure property back in 2012. I still buy it, uh, but I buy it from auction. I buy it from courthouse. I don't go to seller. But yeah, right now I'm more focused on, I would say, ground up construction for luxury single family homes and small multifamily.
Nice.
Anything below like 20 units.
Nice.
Yeah. So that foreclosure part, that excites me every time because I bought a lot of them from the courthouse on auction. So you approach them before it goes to the courthouse, right? Before it
Yep.
goes to the auction.
Yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
We haven't had much luck with auctions, man. We've showed up to a lot of auctions and we bought some houses at auction, and it was a nightmare. I mean, we bought a house in Prince George's County. It took like 8 months to get through the process, and that's when the market was declining, and the house was like worth half of what we still had to buy it. So we haven't had the luck you've had.
Maybe it depends on the town or county to county, right? Everyone has their different process. So.
Oh, I know.
Right.
I'm not saying not to do it, and that like I know people have made a great living off of it. It's just one of those things we've never really figured out.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about your wholesaling business, right? Let's talk about something about the life transformation path that you have started. What exactly you do, or how do you help people?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, trying to get my son help for his anxiety, I realized that I had some unresolved childhood programming issues that had caused me to affected his life and his anxiety, and then negatively affected my life, my relationships, my business. And so I went out and worked with this guy over a weekend. Actually, in one 3-hour session is when all the magic happened. I walked out of that Airbnb bedroom like a completely different human being, and I got back home and I looked around. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is incredible. My life has transformed so much that I need to give this gift back to others. So for the last 2.5 years, I've been studying under some of the best people in the world, and I've taken, I probably have had close to 100 clients now, and I've helped people with anxiety, depression, people who work too much, people who have eating issues, smoke too much marijuana, just anything that has to do, any suffering that you have right now. It comes down to one thing. Everything comes down to one thing, and it's a thinking problem. And that thinking is a problem. You didn't start out with a thinking problem. No one ever is born with depression, anxiety, and eating disorder, working too much, workaholism. No one. It's all learned behavior. So what I do through my 5-week process is I teach people how to, through neuroplasticity, how to access the subconscious mind that knows the source of all of your problems. And the subconscious mind is what drives 95% of your behavior. So that's why therapy doesn't often work, because they focus on symptoms and conscious mind. So we go back, we figure out what's the source of your pain, because to fix any type of pain, you got to figure out the source. We figure out the story you've told yourself around that pain, and then we retell yourself the new story. And man, I have just seen a profound shift in my life and my clients who go through this. I mean, it's just like in 3 to 5 hours of working with me, they have profound shifts. And some of these people, including myself, went to therapy for like 30 years. And in 3 hours, I had a profound shift, way more than the 30 years that I worked in therapy. So it's been pretty amazing.
Awesome. And when you say about subconscious mind, right, how to retrain your subconscious mind, can you give an example, like one small therapy to our listeners? What one thing they can do to just improve their life?
Well, the first thing is you got to figure out, like, where are you in the continuum of self-esteem and self-love? So, because if I would have heard this 3 years ago, I'd have been like, well, I have self-love, I have high self-esteem, I don't care what other people think of me. But it was all a lie. So I developed this self-love quiz. It's 12 questions at bradchandler.com/quiz. And it's going to tell you, if you have extreme self-love, I bet your life is amazing. I bet your relationships, your health, your business are great. If you have mild self-love or lack of self-love, I can promise you that every area of your life is suffering to some degree. So the first thing that you can do is go take the quiz and figure that out. if you have one of the two lower ones, mild or lack of self-love, don't think, oh, woe is my life. Think just the opposite. Think like, oh my God, my life can rapidly transform. If those are the case, then what you have to do is you have to take a deep dive in. Remember earlier, I said no one's born with lack of self-love. You've got to go back and figure out what went wrong. So you can, in a deeply relaxed state, meditate. While you're in the middle of meditation, start thinking back to your childhood. Start thinking back to times in your life where you lacked control or you had some type of trauma or major stress. And then think about what was the story that you told yourself around that. And what I find most of the time, it's that something bad happened to me, so therefore I must be bad. I must not be good enough. That's how our brain helps us survive those bad times. So it's great as a 6-year-old. When you're 46 years old and you're drinking 3 glasses of wine every night and your relationship sucks and you're gambling or you're spending lots of money and you're like, why is this happening? It's happening because you don't feel enough and you're doing anything you can to compensate for that.
Wow, what an insight. Yep. I'm also big time into, like meditation and taking care of your, health. But this is maybe one step ahead of what I've been practicing on my regular basis.
Yeah, this is next level stuff. I mean, if you have when you argue with your wife, it is never about the argument. It's never about what's actually happening. It's always that brain going back to your childhood and bringing something in. And the thing is, Ted, is you don't even know you're doing it. Or if your kids, I love to say, not I love to say this, but it's hard to say and it's hard to hear. But if you have a child with behavioral issues and you want to know where they come from, just grab your spouse and go into the bathroom and look right in the mirror. That's where your kids' behavioral problems come from, because a child never misbehaves unless they feel disconnection from the parent. So we do our job as best we can as a parent, but my best was not good enough for my kids. I had 2 kids with behavioral issues. They're in the process of fixing them. But yeah, we contribute. We cause all of our suffering by these untruths that we live with from childhood.
Absolutely. That's great to hear, man. And I would say, listeners, you can go to Brad's website, check it out, take the questions as he mentioned, right? See what you can find. There might be you might be amazed to find where you stand.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then with all change begins with awareness. So then when you're aware of it, you can actually change things.
Exactly. Yep. So, Brad, keeping time in mind, right? We'd like to move on to our final round of questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So to start with, which is the one book that you'll recommend to our listeners, which has a major impact in your life or on your business?
Yeah, so I'm going to give one on the personal and one on the business. Ray Dalio, who's a billionaire, his book called Principles is pretty freaking amazing. Mm-hmm. On the personal side, a book called The Way to Love by Anthony DeMello. It's a little tiny book. It's an easy, short read, very, very deep. So go buy those 2 books right now if you haven't read those, and thank me later for it.
Yeah, sure. I will try. I haven't read any of these books, so maybe I'll just I put it on my list. Let's see when I get a chance.
Oh wow, you're in for a treat.
Yeah. All right. Next question is, what is the best business advice or investment advice, I would say, you will give to our listeners?
Yeah, and it's something, Ted, that I've learned over the last couple of years. I mean, this is not the advice that you normally hear, but I told you at the beginning of this talk, why did I start with real estate? And I started with real estate because it had unlimited income potential. And now I know that I got into real estate because I wanted to make a bunch of money, because I didn't feel worthy about myself. And I thought that making a lot of money would bring me worth and bring me happiness. And I'm here to tell you it doesn't. And there's so many people that will argue and be like, oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does. But if it did, why is Michael Jackson and Prince and Whitney Houston and so many other famous people that had so much money, why are they dead right now? Because money didn't bring them anything. So my advice to you is, I shifted my focus on making a bunch of money to prove my worth to now my whole purpose in life is to make an impact. That's why I started Bran Chandler Coaching, and that's why I'm transforming lives. But on my real estate business, it's the same thing. I now coach people inside my company. I now look at how can we impact our sellers more? How can we impact our investors, our employees? So in business, don't look at, oh, what can I do to make more money? Ask yourself the question every single day, what can I do to make a bigger impact on this world and in my business? And the money will come more than you ever thought possible.
Yeah. And so the thing is, as you said, right? You help people, you create a bigger network, you have more network. And I believe myself that network is your net worth. That brings you joy, happiness. It brings you money along the way. So yeah, absolutely right.
Ted, I love that. And here's what most people's self-worth is their net worth, meaning that they tie their self-worth to their net worth. That's what I did. And that's what so many entrepreneurs do. So I coach people and they're like, hey, when I'm doing well, and I did the same thing. When I'm making a lot of money 3, 4, 5 years ago, I'm in the gym, I'm dancing around, I'm living life. And when I'm not making any money, I'm telling myself I'm no good. I'm not dancing in the gym. I'm looking around like, no, I don't want to dance. So don't tie your self-worth to your net worth. Your self-worth should stand on its own just because you're a human being. You don't need anything else to create self-worth, but the thinking that you're enough.
Absolutely. Love it. All right, Brad, final questions. How can Decoding Cashflow listeners get in touch with you?
BradChandler.com. And if you like this message, I started a podcast called How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. So check that out. And I put out daily content on this subject, which is really moving. So if you go to BradChandler.com/contact, I'm on every social media platform. I'm even on the new one that just came out 3 days ago, Twitch or Stitcher. I don't know.
Thread.
Thread. There you go. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So you can reach me at BradChandler.com. And if you're suffering, you don't have to suffer a second longer. You weren't made to suffer. You were made to live a joyous life. You were put on this earth for a massive mission. And once you do the work and kill that proverbial lion that's chasing you, your purpose becomes very clear. It happened to me within weeks of killing my lion.
Awesome, Brad. It was a pleasure talking to you, and a lot of golden nuggets you gave to our listeners, and they will surely go to our website and check your website and check it out, and that's going to be helpful. Thanks a lot, Brad.
Thank you, Ted.
Thanks for listening to Decoding Cashflow, brought to you by Aster Capital. If you found value in this episode, then please share it with someone who you think could benefit from it, and make sure to act on what you've learned. If you want Ted Patel to personally help you reach your goals, then feel free to set up a one-on-one call with him. Also, visit us at astercapital.com for more free resources. Content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. As always, please consult your own advisor before making any investment decisions or setting a course of action. Thanks again for joining us on this episode of Decoding Cashflow, and we'll catch you in the next episode.